Tonight's interview is one of the original 25 Magic artists, who after 17 years is making a return to the game with some epic mythic bombs that showcase his immense growth as an artist since he debuted in Alpha. Ladles and gentle spoons, I'm proud to announce the one, the only, Doug Shuler.
So thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Sure, and I'm sorry that it took us a little while to connect, but I'm looking forward to it.
It was worth the wait, I think. So you, I guess to just get it right out of the gate, you probably are like on cloud nine right now with your return to Magic being announced. I think it was yesterday, or the day before yesterday.
I think it was Thursday because I was driving and I started getting texts while I was driving about my cards. And I have 3 cards in the upcoming set, and all 3 were spoiled on Thursday.
And
so it was a big day.
Yeah. And did you know? Were you aware of the important? Well, not this, I say the importance, but like the need for a reprint that one of your cards that was the Dockside Extortionist. Now that
so
one.
No, I haven't, because I haven't actually played for about 20 years. I quit playing in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so I'm not familiar with any of the current cards. I kind of checked around a little bit and I can see what their value is through what they're selling for. But that doesn't always tell me if the playability is good. Is it based on the art? Is it is it rarity, or people collecting because it's foil?
Well, the thing about it is that, well, I would say for you, you're one of the original 25. Like, there's going to be a huge amount of interest in that alone. But then combine that with the fact that the Dockside Extortionist was only printed once, and it was considered like it was almost up for being banned. It was that powerful. Yeah. So the fact that you got those assignments is really a testament to how much of a presence you have in the game. I don't think that was a mistake. I think it was very conscious that they gave you the assignments, and it's cool that you don't necessarily know that's what you're working on, because I think that sort of maybe allows you more creative freedom if that's.
I was sent references to follow, and so we went back and forth and moved the camera angles. I changed his position several times and finally came to the composition that we have, where it's close up on the goblin and close up on the treasure. Yes. Because both elements were important, and they decided that having him on the dot, not quite as important, because he can go on the ship to still extort people.
Right. I mean, like, you got to dock a boat somewhere, right? It's like,
yeah. So narratively, it kind of fits. I've seen some people online saying, why is he the Dockside Extortionist if he's not on the dock? But
that's because he's boats. Well, I mean,
yeah, he's up on the ship and he's extorting the crew and captain.
Yeah, that's sort of. I mean, to me, that's a little too literal. And also, one thing that I don't know if you know, but like, people are actually celebrating the fact that you did your goblin in the vein of the type of the way it would look in the set that it was released in. It was done during the Exelon set, and your version is more representative of what they actually look like. And I don't know if that was predetermined, but it's people are really excited about it.
Well, there actually were some earlier iterations of the art that had a more classic goblin. Mm-hmm. But after talking with the art director, we realized that the cycle that this is in is the Exelon set. And it was decided that we make him, the blue monkey look for the final art. So there's actually, I had to repaint parts of it to make sure it was current. And I think some of that comes from the fact that, again, I'd been out of Magic for 20 years. And so I wasn't really familiar with it. But as soon as he sent me all the art direction, it was like, oh yeah, I can do this. Yeah, this will be really cool, actually.
And when did you get the official? Like, when was it official? Like, I think because you can give away like when you were contacted now in regards to your work coming back in. When did you get notification for the briefs and that you're returning?
So I don't know if this is standard or not. My understanding is it takes them about a year to do the art direction. I painted my pieces late summer. Mid to late summer last year.
Okay.
And I had to be quiet.
Yeah.
We're under NDA. And so I couldn't really reveal I was back in Magic, couldn't say how many cards, couldn't say the set. I was very limited on what I could actually reveal.
Mhm.
So it's been a hard secret to keep, and I'm glad I can finally talk about it.
And it's reading through your old interviews. It's wonderful to see that you're getting the full circle that I love seeing. I know I personally love seeing, because it felt like there was maybe some pain in the fact that, you had felt like your time with Magic had come, to an end. And especially with the final piece that you did for the game, it was, like there was, I feel there was an open sense of sort of loss there that it must be wonderful to have that lifted.
Yeah, and what's very interesting is I've done a whole bunch of conventions over the last 8 or 10 years, and I've been able to connect with some of the OG artists. And it turns out a lot of us went through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
One at a time, we were cycled out. And we each have our stories of pain about, we were involved in this for 10 years, 15 years, some even 20 years. And eventually you get rotated out. And that is hurtful. You're like, I could have done this better, should have stayed in touch more, should have done more cons. We each had our versions of why. And I started talking to some of the original artists, such as Mark Poole, who has come back,
Yep.
Mark Dean, who's come back, Richard Kane Ferguson.
Yes.
And it was sort of a ray of hope that maybe I could get myself back into. I know Pete Venter's just rejoined.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Tucker is back in.
It's not to sound cliche, but it is a renaissance, and I personally have been gunning for it. I love that kind of, like, I am the person who likes seeing the character return from the sequel, that sort of feeling.
Sure.
It's just, you have a great amount of affection for it. But what also is fascinating about you original artists is that you guys were thrown into a thing that you could not have predicted the amount of success.
No, nobody predicted it. We thought it was going to be just another gaming commission, another, BattleTech, Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons. You do the art, you send it in, you get published, you get paid, you go to the next job.
And how old were you when you started Magic? Do you remember how old you were, as far as, like, because it was a young group of people?
24, I think.
Yeah, you were basically a baby. It's like,
and I'm in my mid 50s now.
Yeah, and I talked to other artists about it too, is the fact that you all had such a crazy amount of success, and that you experienced it as a group of artists, which I think has to be unique to the history of art, period. If people are going to be successful in art, it's usually later in life, and it's certainly not done as a group. You know what I mean?
Well, and you never really know what you have until you lose it. And I hate to say that in some sort of weird, emotional, metaphysic way. It's that we kind of took it for granted, I think. All through the 90s, I figured I'd be in every set. I figured I'd continue to do cards. And then suddenly, when I was not doing cards anymore, it was like a piece of me was removed. And I hadn't identified that until it was gone.
Yeah.
And, from about 2004, when I did Greater Good, up until maybe 2010, 2012, I just really didn't do much freelance at all. I was focused on family. I was focused on my career, day jobs here and there. And I didn't do a lot of art. I was doing a lot of digital stuff. But around 2012, 2013, I started doing the convention scene again. Started seeing other artists, how they're getting back in. Started seeing some traditional work, and it kind of energized me. And I thought, I really got to get back into this. I realize now how important it was to me, what a piece of my identity it was.
Yeah, it's really, there's not even a matter of, I don't think you guys can choose. You become inextricably linked to it. It's whether it's something that you consider positive or negative, I think that's almost incidental.
Well, and like you said earlier, that, when you see somebody, it's like a character in a sequel coming back. I get that same thing. When I go to a con and I walk down Artist Alley and I start seeing, there's Richard Kane Ferguson, Mark Poole, Dan Frazier. I start seeing all these old friends that, we've known each other for 30 years.
Yeah.
And we have this shared experience of being Magic artists.
And what's great is the fact that you guys were, you were young, you were, relatively new to the profession. You hadn't been working that long because you hadn't been alive that long. And then the amount of growth that is shown in the magic, the Reuniting Magic book, that you all get to repaint the things that you had done originally, and you redid Sarah Angel.
Sarah Angel, yeah.
And it's astonishing to see that the amount of growth that has happened in those 30 years, the real tenacity of the artists that you are. And
even when we did that 10 years ago, I was sort of in my digital phase, and that was a digital piece. Mm-hmm. And the pendulum has swung back. I'm doing much more traditional now than digital. I've never done a magic piece digitally. These are all traditional.
Really? Okay, so you've never.
I do add special effects digitally, like spell effects. I'll tweak a few things here and there, just to get the special effect right, because it's really hard to paint a smoke wisp or sparkles. So the Dark Side Extortionist, for example, he has all his treasure chests open behind him, but there's no glow. Mm-hmm. But if you look on the card, you can see there's glow coming out of each of the boxes. That was added digitally.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, one of the things that I found refreshing about you was you were a very early acceptor of digital. When at a time when it was kind of poo-pooed upon by the general, the art world, you were very quick to embrace it.
And I tried to do a number of pieces digitally for Magic, and I was told that they didn't have any way to process them. They were still having art sent in, and they were doing the traditional scanning, and they had no way to really process a digital piece.
That's fascinating, because you had wanted to do it, but they could not at the time. They didn't have the technology.
Right. And we had done Netrunner. We were just fresh off of Netrunner, and all of I did about 20 pieces for Netrunner, and about the ones in the real world I did traditionally. The ones in the computer I did digitally. So if you're doing something inside the computer, it was all done with computer art. And I wanted that separation. But the digital tech back in the late 90s was not nearly, it wasn't up to snuff. And I think some of the cards kind of suffered for it.
Yeah, it needed time to catch up with the talent that was behind it. Like the programs had to get to a point where they were able to match up with the hands that were behind it.
Right. So I can do digital art. I still do some pieces digitally just for me, but most of my actual commissions, I've pendulum has swung back to traditional, and I'm doing a lot of pencil work again. I'm doing oil paint, and I get endless commissions, which is one of the things that actually helped bring me back. Because remember, I'd said I'd kind of lost my identity when I was out of Magic. I get a dozen requests a week to do paintings on artist proofs, or to do altars, or to do a custom piece for somebody, a repaint. We started doing these repaints.
Yeah.
Where I take an original piece and repaint it. It doesn't cost as much as the original, but
yeah,
so that's affordable.
Yeah, well, it's the amount of money that the originals that you it must be mind blowing that you when you think about it, you are in the same category as like Da Vinci or Picasso, where the amount of money that it can be demanded for.
Not quite, but I do know Heritage Auctions sold Demonic Tutor last year for $168,000.
I mean, that's
the highest I'm aware of any of mine going for.
I feel like and it's hard to track that kind of stuff too, because something could happen where if it's not publicly made known, but it's still a hefty sum of when you think about like the young version of you painting on like, what was it, the 5x7 card or something.
Yeah, and I'm still a living artist. My stuff is selling for that much. It's not like I had to die for it to become valuable.
No, that's the thing.
Cool.
Is it's rarefied, and it's very cool to witness, and I just get a great amount of joy to see. It's a fascinating story. It's really unlike anything that has ever happened to any group of artists, and the sense of community that you have is wonderful. Now, one of the things that I would like to see, if I don't know if maybe your position on like whether you felt like your styles have changed. Obviously, you've grown immensely as an artist, but if you were to describe, say, your earliest version of like what your style would be versus what you've become now, do you think that you would be able to put it to words, or is that something that is too esoteric?
I don't know about the style difference, but I know because things are being printed with much more high resolution, and we're more familiar with the way the cards will look. There's a lot more we can do with it. In the original assignment, we had to paint 5x7. Okay, so you can only get so much detail in that size. We were also told by Jesper, the art director, that the pieces had to be identifiable from a distance. So he wanted them to be simple, colorful, and iconic. So like if I held up a Sarah Angel and stood back 15 feet, 20 feet, you'd know what it is. He had the foresight to know that people would be looking at these tournaments and looking at these cards from a distance, and they had to identify what the cards were just from the pictures.
Yes.
And so I really just grabbed onto that. And that's why a lot of my early pieces, they don't have backgrounds. Like Sarah Angel is just kind of blue. Demonic Tutor is almost all red, just a little volcano over his shoulder. Yeah. Very simple, iconic pieces. So they were this big. Okay. These paintings back here are 22 inches across by 30 tall. And I can get so much detail into them now. And Wizard's printing process can capture that.
Yes. And I mean, and how long does that take? How long does one of those take, like from start to finish?
Not counting the concepting or any of the photoshopping after the fact. I'm counting at about 40 hours of painting. That blows my mind, because to me as a non-artist, I'm like, what does it take years to do? I mean, it's like, it's you painting, they look like they're the size of like movie posters. Well, the original Icy Manipulator, for example, or the original Demonic Tutor, I probably painted in 3 or 4 hours. And now I'm spending 10 times that on a piece. But I'm doing every blade of grass, every leaf. And maybe I go a little too far. That is my style, is I like very literal paint. Like when I do trees, I do all the bark and I do all the branches and all the business. But I do keep a record as I'm painting of how many hours I spend on each day on each thing. And it's averaging just about 40 hours per painting for these larger ones.
Do you have a painting that what would be the most time that you spent? Like which painting, even if it's not a magic painting, what was the longest you spent on a painting in one like sitting?
In one sitting?
Or I guess in the project, like what was 40 hours the longest, or 50 hours?
Yeah, never more than that. I've never done a painting bigger than these. Like I've never done a mural. I've never done anything on like a super canvas where it's just huge, expansive amounts of space to cover.
What constitutes a super canvas?
There are canvases that I've seen that are, 6 feet by 14 feet. You get them custom stretched.
Wow.
If you go to an art gallery, you can see a lot of these canvases that are 20, 30 feet, one dimension.
But are you able to get the same amount of detail and focus that, I mean, because the size that you've chosen for these new pieces, they're big, but they seem like you are able to keep a lock in, because if I feel like if you go too big, wouldn't that make it a much more tricky endeavor of keeping that detail?
Yeah, well, there's also a practicality feature. Like when I do a traditional painting, I take it to a photographer to get him to photograph it. Mm-hmm. So I have a digital version of it that I can then submit to Wizards. And if it's too big, you just can't get it in the car and take it to the photographer. So there's a practicality to it. I'm also aware that if I do sell these originals, I want to be able to mail them reasonably. Or if I want to transport one to a show, that it'll fit in my car. So there are limits as to how big I'm willing to go. Mm-hmm. And then finally, there's the deadline constraint, that if I have to have a piece done in 2 weeks, I don't want to go so big that it's going to take me a month to do.
Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that stress. That's certainly not something that's going to be conductive to good art. It's like being stressed out.
Now, some of the artists I know do paint smaller. I've been seeing some pieces coming up for sale that are 10 by 15 or, slightly smaller sizes. And that works really well for each individual. For me, my eyes can't quite do that. My hand can't quite do that. I like a little more of an arm motion to some things. And I like to be able to stand back and see the art and look at it critically as I'm painting, is the composition working, are the colors working? I try not to get too close to the artboard because then shoulders hurt, my back hurts, I get real tense, and I find bigger is just better for my ergonomics.
It works too, because it really is an individual experience. I mean, whatever works, if it works, it works. But
sure.
I think that one of the things that is really fascinating about your, if I were to say style, or if I were to say there was a connecting style for you, you were always very interested in the faces, like human faces, or like portrait style was always something that really was a strong element of all of your paintings. But what I noticed is, I feel like at the beginning, were you using reference photos, say for like Sarah Angel, or the earlier pieces? Because the ones that you ended up doing later on in the game, they have so much personality that it has to, I feel like there has to be stories behind the models who did this. There is a closeness there that doesn't feel like just a regular, hire a model and have them go or whatnot.
A lot of it would depend on the piece, the deadline. Do I know somebody that might fit? But I went through a phase where I was doing charity auctions. And I would auction off the right to be in a piece once I got an assignment. I would go to a convention and it'd be like, hey, I'm going to do this art of a wizard, or art of, some warrior person. I need a male for this. I need a female for that. Or sometimes it didn't even matter. And what we would do is we would auction the right to model to be in the art. And then the money would all go to a charity, whatever was being sponsored by that particular auction. And I would do a quick photo shoot on site. And so a lot of those people later on ended up being real people that had donated money to a charity. We've helped battered women shelters. We've helped children in need, some orphanages with a children rehab center.
That's fantastic.
And then, for example, the piece I did in conjunction with a Fraley supplicant that I did with Liz Danforth was one of those pieces. Mm-hmm. And we did it together.
Yes.
It was her assignment, but it was my idea to do the charity, and she had to leave early. So I took the picture of the model throwing up butterflies, and then Liz painted the art. And that's why they put us both on there, Liz Danforth and Doug Shuler's. I just did the photo.
Yes.
And Liz did the actual execution.
Yes. And so, and I mean, one of the things that is fascinating. I mean, maybe I'm just sort of maybe making inferences that aren't there, but like for the model for Shadowbane, should she appear in earlier cards? Is she somebody that you reuse? Because I feel like you see a very similar model look to, and I'm blanking on the other card, but I'm looking it up. But there was another pose that was it looked like the same model. Did you ever use the same people twice?
I can't think of a time when I used the same person.
Okay. So
I know I did for Zurin Enchanter. There was a royal herbalist. I did two versions, one male and one female. Mm-hmm. Those are both friends of mine. Actually, one of them was an auction winner and one was a friend of mine. I never used the same person twice that I remember.
Okay. So then the royal herbalist, I think it's that's the one that I was curious about. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Scent of Jasmine. I knew there's the flowers. Now that one, that really looks like it could be related. They look.
Yeah, those two were. Wait, Scent of Jasmine.
It looks like a woman that is tending to a sick.
Yeah, those are friends of mine. They were a couple at the time. He is actually Mike Kimball, who did a couple of cards himself.
Oh wow!
So he modeled as the laying back figure, and then she modeled as the healer. You get a closeness there, and then when you look at, I love the just the personality of some of them are great. The
okay, veteran bodyguard. Yeah, I got to talk about that one. I'm sure that you've heard it before. I know it's probably not George Clooney, but it is interesting how much that looks like a movie star. I actually did a series where, I talked about like celebrities that looked like the Magic cards, and I swear I saw George and I saw Bruce Campbell in Northern Paladin. I was like,
Northern Paladin to me was spiritually after Dirk the Daring from Dragon's Lair.
Oh, okay.
Remember the Dragon's Lair video game?
Yeah.
Don Bluth game. Yeah, spiritually. I mean, I had to do it more realistically, but I kind of felt he was sort of a cheesy paladin type, like Dirk the Daring.
Yeah, I think Bruce Campbell could play that. He could play the cheesy paladin. I think that he would nail that. I mean, in Army of Darkness, he certainly did. Now, another thing that I find kind of fascinating about you was while you're doing all these portraits, your land work was really striking to me. Your landscapes, the mountains, the plains.
Mm-hmm. I think the islands were the strongest from Mirage. Mm-hmm. And actually, I got to do the mountains in the first set. And when I found out another set was going to come out, Ice Age, I specifically asked for the swamps. And I'm like, oh, I got to do swamps. I got to do that. And then another set came out, another core set. And I'm like, you know what? I've already done 2 lands. Why don't I continue doing more lands? And so I have actually done all 5. I did plains in Portal, swamps in Mirage, mm-hmm. forests in Tempest, I believe it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I did that purposefully. So if people wanted to play a Shuler deck, they had all 5 mana types available to them.
They are really, they're astonishingly, like, I feel like you were confident with the lands, like right out of the gate. I think that there's immediate strength to it. Is landscape something that it must be difficult to do because of I get a sense that were you like using, reference photographs, sure, but I feel like in some of them, like, it really feels like you're there, which I don't think is easy to do, to that have that encompassing feeling of like sunlight, like your planes that in I believe it's a Portal. Like I live in South Florida, that has a feeling.
You see a lot of that.
Yes.
I wasn't using references, but I did find that the lands were a little easier to do because you don't get stuck in the human figure and you don't get stuck in specific anatomy. It's like if you paint a tree a certain way or a mountain a certain way, you're not really going to miss the mark. But if you paint a person wrong, you miss the mark. And some of my early people, I really made a lot of mistakes on. I'd love to go back and redo it. In fact, I've been kind of playing with doing an art series about if I was assigned it today. Repaint the Manalish Hero, repaint Northern Paladin, repaint Demonic Tutor as if I got the assignment today.
Yeah.
To see what 30 years of improvement would do. And I thought it'd be a really fun project just for my own practice.
It would be great. It would be wonderful because there is, you have obviously, like you've embraced the fame that came with the cards that are known for, which I know some artists have a difficult relationship with it. But if you have a relationship where you enjoy revisiting that experience, why not? I would love to see that personally. I think. Yeah,
I've gotten the idea from people that take like drawings from children and kids, like drawings of monsters, and then they paint them so they look, three-dimensional. The idea flat out came from that. And I'd like, if I did that to my Magic cards, I'd love to see what they look like now.
Why not? I think that would be like, it would be great. Now, one thing that I noticed was you said that it wasn't intentional with Sarah Angel to do the one-sided, she had the sleeve. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed that it happens like throughout like your career, that there is that either I don't know if you're referencing it or if you are like doing a wink to that thing. Were you aware of that, doing that in some other pieces? Because I've seen I feel like you like the asymmetry look of
I do. I specifically like the asymmetry. Like you'll notice Unholy Strength, the guy's got his arms up. He has chainmail on one side and leather on the other with buckles down the middle.
Yes.
A couple of the other characters, I do like the asymmetry. I find it a more interesting costume. And even when you
sure.
start watching movies and stuff, you'll see people's collars are off to one side, or you'll see just some design element that is a little asymmetrical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
particularly in fantasy science fiction. And I just find that a little more interesting to look at.
I think it's great. And I mean, like, because you fully embraced it, like in the Sarah Angel repainting. I mean, it is clearly there. You talk about it and you're very open to it. And I mean, what Bob Ross called them happy accidents.
Happy accidents.
Right? Yeah,
well, and in the case of Sarah, I purposely did the sleeve thing again because it was my own art. But if I was to do Sarah again, I would certainly be using the lineage of her from, Greg Staples and Rebecca Gay and some of the others that have repainted her over the years. I would use their designs as well. And I'm sure Wizards would want me to as well. Put her in armor, make her a warrior, put her,
right.
Not in just the gauzy thing that I had her in.
And, I will say this, though, be it gaudy as it may, I will say that you did not shy away from doing the same thing to the male models. I would say that, it to me, it's more problematic, or, if it's just, one is completely sexualized and the other is not. But you do seem to just be appreciative of like the form, which I think is, I mean, I'm for it. I know that, it's maybe not necessarily a PC way of thinking, but you're not afraid to show pecs too,
that was something that somebody had observed as early as college. And I was doing college in the early 20s, that my art, as they said, it celebrated the human form.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would do women that were pretty and strong and men that were pretty, handsome and strong. And I liked that. I can, but I don't like to do sad people, weak people, and I know there's a lifetime to capture if you walk down the street and you see some unfortunate people, homeless or sickly or whatever. There's a life to catch there, but that's not really what my art tends to do with the colors and the brighter shapes and brighter forms. I tend to do more of the celebratory heroic art.
There's nothing wrong with that. This is fantasy, right? I feel like you want to see that, and
sure.
It's fun. And speaking of like very muscular, but another the asymmetry was with unholy strength. But what was it like being caught in the middle of? Because there was a brouhaha about that card. That the whole satanic panic 90s thing that was going on when you did it. Did you suffer any like ramifications as far as like was it tough on you? Did people come after you? Because this was pre-internet, so it might not have been as bad. But if it was today, I feel like there would be.
No, well, a couple of things. First of all, when they removed the pentagram, to Wizards' credit, they called me. And they asked me and they said, are you okay with this? Because the option is we reassign the art and have it repainted. We're going to have to remove it. I understood. And I said, you know what? If it's either take out my art or we just remove the pentagram digitally, let's just take it out digitally.
Mm-hmm.
So to their credit, they gave me the choice to decide how I wanted to deal with it. So that was really cool. But the other thing is, and I'm not a particularly, I put the pentagram in that piece. I also put it on Demonic Tutor.
Yeah,
but I also have a cross on Hallowed Ground.
Yeah,
I have a cross in the window of fasting.
Yes.
So there is also positive, Christian iconography, and perhaps I should have done others too. Judaism.
Well, but that's sort of tough. That's you can't really judge yourself for that because eventually Wizards adapted the stance that they didn't want to have any real world religion depicted at all because it's just it's a hot button issue.
Well, and now we're in Dominaria. We're not even on Earth.
Right.
And so it's like this stuff doesn't even exist. Let's just not even depict it.
Yes. So I don't think that I don't think it's fair to judge, like when there wasn't style guides, when there weren't, there weren't parameters for you to work with. I think it's not fair to sort of down anybody for doing what it would, I mean, when you say unholy, there are certain things that obviously would come to mind, but there is not a celebration of evil the way that people were, pretending that it was. It was all very silly.
Right. And it was, I mean, the art, we were not paid very much. We weren't given a lot of time. It was very small. We thought this was just going to be a one-shot game. Had no idea what was going to happen. And so in their unholy strength, I actually talked to the art director. I was like, what do you want to do with the strength thing? Should it be lifting? Should it be like getting power? They're like, yeah, just put like a symbol behind him or something.
Yeah.
Drew a circle and threw on some flames. And oh my gosh, do I wish I spent more time on it.
But again, it's really, you can't be too hard on yourself because how could you know? But was there as big of a stink over the pentagram of the ages, which is really cool. And it's clever. It's funny, like especially with the flavor text, like saying, take this item, for instance, how would it destroy us? It's just, that one, it shows, I think, really the true nature of what you guys were doing, where there was no malice involved. It was just having fun.
And I purposely made it more alchemical and less of like a Satan symbol. It was more of an alchemy symbol. There's little symbols for like Jupiter and some other things in there. It's not just a straight up 5-pointed circle, the wizard holding it. Mm-hmm. So there's other symbols in there. And I think that move away was good because that piece, I never heard anything negative about that one as far as the symbol use.
No, it's funny too, because when you think about it, it has the word pentagram in the title. You'd think that like that would be the one that would raise, like that would cause, the people who, get upset about that kind of stuff to, get their undergarments in a twist, let's say. One of the ones that I don't have any context on, but I guess it is the Spanish version of Sarah Angel, or it's Angel de Sarah. I know it's like Angel de Sarah, but
okay.
It is the blue Sarah Angel that is it is purple. It almost looks like a hallucinogenic dragonfly.
I think that's a piece by I want to say Amy Weber.
So is that a misprint? Then they
misprint. They put the wrong art on the Sarah Angel card.
That's
and that is a misprint.
Wow.
And I don't know when it was corrected or if later editions had the Sarah Angel art in it.
Because it's technically the reason, I guess, for posterity purposes, they put all of the versions of every Sarah Angel on Scryfall. Mm-hmm. And so they just that's just, and I saw that and I was like, well, that's odd. It's clearly like it looked like it was blue art, like or at least intended for a blue card. And then I was like, and it doesn't really look like his style, but then again, you don't want to pigeonhole, but because
he was a misprint, and there were a lot of mistakes. Like the first several editions misspelled my last name. They put SCH.
Yeah. I thought I was tripping. When I saw that, for years, I'm like, every time I would write you, I was like, dear God, I hope I'm spelling his name correctly.
Yeah, and that got corrected. So that's just one of the little oddities that has been corrected over the years. But I think a lot of sets, a lot of stories, and a lot of artists all have these little anecdotes where stuff like that has happened to them.
Oh, absolutely. Now, with that's interesting. You say the islands are your favorite of the lands you did.
Yeah.
Is there one in particular that you like of all three? Or okay.
Yeah, they wanted us to do that land with one that was in sunset. So there were 3 with a blue sky and one with a purple. The purple was supposed to be sort of a sunset shot.
Yes.
That is not the one that I'm counting on. The one that my favorite is the one that is blue, very tall. It doesn't have an island in it. Although the island one's pretty cool too.
I mean, yeah, it's fun to see for instance, like the mountains that you did, because they are so clearly based off of Earth mountains. They're almost alien looking in the game itself because they are Earth mountains. It's a red, and they're not red, they're blue. It's striking. It's interesting to. I
tried to make them a little more heroic, a little taller, a little brighter color, just to sort of supernaturalize them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But beyond that, I wasn't doing anything like floating islands or, putting it on a blood sea or anything creative like that. Not that I wouldn't want to now. Now that they've got the style guide and the look of magic so much more advanced, I feel like there's a lot more we can get away with now.
So would you even consider doing, if you were due to like a series of repaints, you would have to tackle the lands, I'd imagine, because
I hadn't thought about it, but maybe so. I have a short list of cards I would want to repaint, and I think they're all things like Force of Nature. I'd love to redo that one. Triskelion is one that I want to redo.
Mm-hmm.
So I have particular ones I want to target. I hadn't even thought about the lands.
I mean, it seems to, because they are so like a splash of just like of a side of you that is not, readily available. I feel like you have to do it because if you got to do it, if you're doing a Shuler deck, you got to have lands, right? You got to have that.
Yeah. Well, all 5 are out there, although I didn't do any legendary lands or any dual lands or any of that stuff. So you'd still be kind of limited. It'd be all just base land.
But I mean, with the base lands, though, the way that the style guides are and the variations of it, and since you don't have to necessarily pin yourself down to any particular plane, like if this is something that you're doing just as a project for fun or for, the creative kicks, like you could choose what set you want to depict. You could even do each land from a different set. The constraints are not necessarily there. So you could go like buck wild and just, have one be floating, have one do whatever. I really am. I'm a big fan of this thing. Like this must happen. I would be thrilled to see what you would do.
It's been an idea of mine for about 2 years. I was going to use it to sort of leverage myself back into Magic. But luckily I had some people, including Dan Fraser, Mark Aronowitz, they were not petitioning, I'd say, advocating for me to get back in, and dropping my name and saying Doug really wants to get back in, and Wizards reached out, and boy was that just a life changer, because I feel so much more like I'm where I should have been. Like I am so happy doing Magic art, and when they call, literally I drop everything else. It's like, okay, for the next 2 months, it's all Magic.
And did you like the divisions of the people that you painted in both of they are so distinct? Did you have reference models like for that? I mean, how did the composition side of it go with those? So
what I have is a series of photos of works in progress, and I've got time lapse. But this, for example, this is the model for the Allosaurus shepherd, standing with the painting. He came over a month earlier and did a photo shoot.
Wow.
Let me see.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Here it is. Yeah, we did a Photoshop. We did a photo shoot of him. So this is the face model. It's not going to show up real well on this. Just took a series of photos.
That's great.
Ended up picking the best. Or the one that I thought fit. Piece by piece. I'm gonna have to put these on the internet. Oh, this is a time lapse of me painting part of the tree.
Oh wow!
And then he started coming in a little more. And I'm sorry you can't see this. I'm gonna edit these and release them. But then finally, a month later, he came over to my place. I showed him the finished painting. Again, you can't really see it. And then took a picture of him with the painting.
That had to have been so fucking cool for just for him, because I mean that is it's such an honor, and it's you get to be immortalized. And
we have a mutual friend, and she had called me and said, look, I want to give this guy a birthday present. He really likes Magic. What would be a cool present? And I said, I just happened to have received an assignment and I need a male model. And so she sent me a photo of him. I thought he looked the part. And so we set up a photo shoot. And that was his birthday present, was to get to be in a Magic card.
That's quite a birthday present, I would say. I mean, you can't, wow, that's That's amazing. It's great to see I love seeing the kind of the reference or the behind the scenes, the synthesis of it, because you have to extract these elements, and again, you see the growth that you've had as an artist. It's remarkable how much you've become. Like, it's not that your work was bad, but now it's fantastic. It's
well, thank you. And I think a lot of it too is just the understanding of the reach of magic. Like these pieces, like I say, take me 40 hours plus sketch time and plus post-processing. So there's probably 50 to 55 hours into each piece. And you think, well, I'm getting paid this amount. What is that per hour? Is that enough? And you're like, no. This is going to be seen worldwide. These cards are going to be used for years to come. And my name is on every single one of them. Mm-hmm. In fact, when we first did magic, I didn't do it because of the pay. The pay was very low. Mm-hmm. But I was told by the art director, our name would be on every single card. And I thought, well, that's it. It's the exposure. That's why I want to do it. And here it's been printed in a dozen languages. I still get cards sent to me for autograph. 30 years later, it's still making payback. So that was one of the best choices I ever made.
Yeah, it is unreal. And I don't think that it's difficult to grasp the influence of it. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's an industry now.
Yeah.
But what I do think Wizards is doing right, and I commend them for doing this, that they have embraced the understanding that people want to see different versions of their worlds. They want to see different styles. They want to see the people that they love painting the way that they wanted to. I think there was a time where maybe they were cracking down and making things a little too, the style guides make sense. You want some uniformity.
Yeah.
But I feel like they maybe went a little too hard of a turn, and they've corrected it. And now they're letting people into the game. There's brilliant new artists coming in, and there are, instances where you're doing, like a return where it is crazy to see the amount of growth that you've gone through. And it's
not only that, but they've made it so that we're painting the entire card too. We're doing the border. At least I've been doing the borderless versions. Mm-hmm. And so we're not just doing just the art box. We have to think about the border and behind the rules where it's transparent.
Yes.
You have to do all that. So when I format a piece of art, I think about the top part, but I also have to think about the bottom half. And what is the complete art going to be like? Mm-hmm. Which is much more expansive as an artist. I don't feel like I'm quite locked in as tightly.
I see. So that creates you're more room to breathe, like almost like from a literal sense. You can relax and sort of take advantage of the space that you're given.
Right. So let me grab the Allosaurus here. So like in this piece, I hope we can see it. Yeah. So what they do is they send us a template that we can lay over our sketch that shows where the title's going to be and it shows where the art's going to be. And I laid the template over my rough sketch, and I saw it was going to crop right around the knee. And that would have been a fine piece of art as it is. But I really like having the complete, the rest of the dinosaur in the back and the guy's legs and the, finishing out the ground and the river and, just making it more of a full painting and less of just a snapshot. I don't know if I'm putting that into the right phraseology, but I love being able to go beyond the borders.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's hard to imagine somebody saying to you, I'm going to do a painting of a guy petting a dinosaur and it's going to look gentle.
Luckily they had sent me some of the other Allosaurus shepherd arts, and I was able to sort of use those as inspiration.
Yeah. But
yeah,
yours is definitely your own, because the one that was originally done for Allosaurus, I believe, and I'm going to cut this out because I can't believe that I am blanking on the artist, but it's Randy Vargas.
Okay,
his version was it has the same like the petting of the dinosaur, and it is great, but there seems to be more of ferocity, I guess, in his depiction, whereas yours is gentle. It's was that difficult to capture? I mean, how did you?
Yeah, and actually, I had drawn it the first time with the shepherd sitting on a log, sort of with his legs dangling. He's sitting on this broken tree, and there's an Allosaurus down below him, and he's leaning down and kind of petting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a good piece, but we started putting the template on it and realized that the Allosaurus was too low. Since I'm doing this borderless, the guy was in the top half, but the Allosaurus, he was looking down and it was too low. So we thought, how can we get it up higher? How can we get the Allosaurus into the, the money part of the card?
Yeah.
And I thought the only way to do it is if he's not on the log, if the model's not on the log, he's got to be on the ground. Now we have a big dog. We've got a 100-pound dog of our own. And I know when I sit on the ground, he's, this big.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, what if this is like he's got a dog on his lap? And
yes.
That logic started coming into it, where like he's just got his big old mutt there. And if the shepherd or the Allosaurus has his head on the guy's leg, it's hard to see, but there's actually an indentation from the neck on the Allosaurus where it's resting on the knee. And I think that connection really brings it together.
Yeah,
it's a mean monster, but it's clearly like at rest.
Yes,
and I thought that was cool.
It's a difficult thing, I think, to pull off, because I feel like if you were in less competent hands, that could easily become something that would be unintentionally funny, right? Like if you didn't have that, but you using your dog as a reference, that makes total sense, because there's nothing more lovable than a dog that's, cuddling on you. I mean, they're
and it started out of the sheer logistics of just trying to get the Allosaurus to be up in the upper half of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. It was just, how do we get him to either the model lower, dinosaur higher, set him on the ground, pretend it's a dog. I even had the model pose with a big stuffed animal. He had a giant gorilla that he was petting.
That's funny. Oh man. And I think that it's great to see the diversity and composition, because the original Allosaurus, it's from a lower angle. There is you're on the ground watching these two connect, but you get the idea that they're, that they've taken you down, and that's how it goes. Like you've lost to them. Whereas yours, the camera is right there with them. And that's interesting to hear that was more of a problem solving thing that ended up being, I think, really effective.
Well, and I took inspiration from the Vargas piece, where he had a herd walking in the background. He had several other Allosauruses in the back. Did the same thing on mine. On the left-hand side, you can see there's 2 or 3 more walking.
Yes.
Filling in the space in the background. That was a definite inspiration from the previous piece.
Oh, and I feel like that's really cool of you to be so open to, like, you saying that you want to incorporate the iterations of, if you were to redo Sarah Angel, you would incorporate, Staples or Rebecca. That is, it's a like, the lack of ego is really, I think, what makes it special, because you could easily be, overly precious and be like, I don't want to. And it's not, I don't think it's an improper way to do it, but I find that to be really, it's really shows how much you love the game and how much you are happy to be.
I'm not here to re-envision history that other artists have done. In fact, when they create a creature and I problem solve and I use that creature in my art, it actually solves some of my dilemmas. Like when I did BFM has 2 creatures hanging off of his horns.
Yes.
It's a Krovik, a Yawgmoth, oh man, I can't believe I'm forgetting.
I'll look. I'm going to look him up now.
2 specific creatures were put in there, and I was told to, use these monstrous creatures and make them look like just earrings. He's so big, they're tiny earrings. And I didn't want to re-envision those creatures. So I actually used the other artists' images as inspiration.
And that's great. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. I think that rewards people who are paying attention.
Yeah.
And
They'll start seeing the continuity between the cards.
yes, and I wonder. I feel like there's a dose of Where the Wild Things Are in that one as well.
For sure.
Because I mean, it's got that, you know, that it's sort of like Where the Wild Things Are, except it'll kill you. Like maybe not one you want to run into, but it's got that element. No, you've got those the earrings hanging from it. It's great. So what are you doing any sort of promotional stuff for the game now? What is upcoming for you that you would like to talk about as far as where you're going and with the pieces, or if there's going to be any sort of like showings or whatnot?
Well, obviously with COVID, conventions shut down for a couple of years. And so I've not actually done a show since late 2019. COVID hit in 2020 and I haven't done a show since. I just got wind that there's a Vegas, Wizards is doing a Vegas thing, Magic 30.
Yep.
I'd love to get into that. I don't know who to contact, but I think I'd be a natural fit since I was one of the originals and now I'm back in now.
Best to get that.
Well, and when you get artists that were in the first generation and you get artists that are in the current generation, you're going to hit all markets. You know, you're going to be remembered for being OG and you're still going to be getting the new guys.
It's fascinating to see the interactions, because there are artists who were playing your stuff as little kids that are now, that are my age, and there's generations where it's great to see the iterations that come. Like,
I've got stories that I've collected over the decades of people that went to art school because of my art.
That's great.
There's a Magic artist that said he started his art journey by copying Sarah Angel.
Who's that?
I'm not going to say because it's kind of a personal moment that we had, but
he
is currently a Magic artist, and he claims he and his brother used to copy Sarah Angel. And oh my gosh, that made my year to hear that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I know people that have there's a gentleman that named his daughter Sarah Angel. The reach of the game is amazing. I get fan art from Poland and Singapore, all over, everywhere, Africa, Europe, Asia. It's amazing. And I still get fan art to this day. And until this week, I hadn't done art for 20 years.
What? Wait a minute. You hadn't done any? Like,
yeah. Well, Greater Good was my last in 2013 or 2003, 2004.
You hadn't done any Magic, but I know you said you stopped doing art for a brief period when you were going through, the rough patch, but you were doing, was it Anne Banks?
Anne May. Yeah, I've done other work. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I've done other work. I've done some, some comics. I've done book covers, books on tape, like the Anne Banks series. I have done other freelance projects.
Right.
But nothing with the reach of Magic.
Right. Well, yeah, that's I don't think that could happen twice in a lifetime for anybody. It's that kind of phenomenon is it just does. You can't, lightning doesn't strike twice like that. But you, like, for instance, like I'm stuck on you saying that you were re-envisioning, like the one piece that you have on your website. It is, I believe it's a digital one, but there's a demon. It looks like it's kind of not. It's referencing the mana in the book symbols, and I feel like that right there has shades of demonic tutor going on with it.
Yeah. So when I first met Mark Aronowitz, we talked about doing some playmats.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have the rights to use any of the Magic art yet. We hadn't worked that out. And so I did a new version of Sarah Angel, and I did a new version of Demonic Tutor. And you may be looking at the new Demonic Tutor.
Is it where the books are floating around him and
and each one has a color of magic around him?
Yes. See, that right there is just a taste of what you are like. It would be great to see, because now those were digital, right? Those pieces
digital, and it was done in like 2016.
Yeah.
And after we did that, we then secured the permissions to do playmats of many of my earlier art pieces. I've probably got about a dozen, maybe 15 different playmat designs now.
Really? Wow, that's fantastic.
And so we moved away from doing the new stuff, and now we just sell the playmats of, Icy and Prodigal Sorcerer, Force of Nature, Demonic Tutor, Frozen Shade, Hypnotic Spectre. A lot of my early hits from the first set that people still know. Now that I've got the rights to do those as playmats, that's really what we've been focusing on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so getting back to that Demonic Tutor, I really enjoyed doing that. And that is kind of the seeds of the idea of what would these look like if I redid them now. Back then, it was forced because I couldn't use my current DT. I kind of had to re-envision them.
I see.
But now I'm thinking about doing it just for myself as an artistic exploration.
Right, because this way, if you had, since there was an element of you it was sort of forcing your hand, there maybe is not the ability to sort of do the pure joy from it that you could now that it's just something that you want to do for fulfillment. Right,
and further, I would probably do them as painted pieces now.
Oh, yeah.
Then they were digital, but now I think I would go back to the original techniques but see what it looks like as a modern expression of what the character is.
What would be the first one? Do you think it would just be Sarah Angel if you were to get started? Do you have an idea that is formed of the most of them that you're kind of itching to get out?
Yeah, I would purposely not do Sarah first. I'd want to save that to be like once the idea has taken root.
Yeah.
And I've got people watching it on YouTube or following it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Then I'd build up to Demonic Tutor or Sarah Angel. I was thinking I would start with the Banala Shiro.
Yeah.
I've even made some doodles and got some ideas about lighting and costuming and models. I have somebody in mind for modeling.
Oh my goodness.
It'd be a full out, I'd throw in every piece of effort that I could get into it. I think I've intimidated myself a little bit, which is why I haven't started it.
But why do you say that? Why do you say you intimidated yourself? Because
every time I finish a piece of art, I step back and I see everything wrong with it. And so I want to make sure I get it so that it's just there.
What about what you just finished? I mean, they're fantastic. Do you still see the flaws in your new pieces? Because
I do. I see some things that I could have done better or things I'd like to change, but because they're in print, they're locked down. I'm not going to change these. I'm not going to throw them out and redo them like I could if it was my own art. If I paint Nala Shiro and I don't like it, I can step away from it. But these, I had a deadline. I have to turn them in. And, I don't think any artist is 100% happy with what they're doing.
It's a special kind of hell, I think, for artists because you don't get to see what we get to see. I think that if you did, it would be a lot more like just relaxing because we do not see those imperfections. It's to hear that there is even reservations about the pieces now is kind of mind-boggling to me because I understand maybe, if, the early like art that you were doing where it was, very quick, very low budget, very quick, process. But the ones that you've done, there is it's tough for me to see that there's anything wrong with them.
Well, I think that's the drive that keeps any creative person doing the next thing. Maybe you're a musician or a singer. Like what keeps you, you walk away from a song, you want to write the next song. Because you think you can make the next one better.
That's
true. Or you do another album or you do another tour and you're like, oh, okay, I've learned. Next will be better. Same thing with art. It's like, I think I've learned some things from these pieces and the next ones will be better. At least that's the goal.
Well, then, but at the same token, then you should, you should definitely not be so intimidated that you can't do them because I feel like they're ready to come out. Like you kind of have to face your destiny. Plus, it's pretty awesome. I mean, like I can't let you you can't take no takey backsies.
And the interesting thing is seeing what happens when the art meets the public.
Yeah,
what is the comment? Like Dockside Extortionist. I didn't realize what a card that was until 3 days ago. It blew up. So I want to get copies of all these cards for myself. And the Seeker of the Way is going to be like they're pricing it at 20 cents, 30 cents. Dockside Extortionist, $70.
Well, that's one version of it. I've seen them going for closer to 100. Of your versions, it's.
Well, I am not delusional. I know that that's based on gameplay and rarity, like the fact that this is now a mythic card. Right, I get that the game mechanics drive it, but I, as an artist, want to get copies of my own cards.
Oh God, yeah.
And now I'm going to be paying quite a bit, for my own card.
I mean, I feel like, well, I'll tell you what, if I happen upon one, I will gladly donate it to you as long as you do the project because I'll be like stipulation. But no, I mean, but it is, again, I say this in all due honor, like in due reverence, this wasn't the returning artists. They gave you guys really important stuff to work on because I feel that they are aware of the importance of your presence in the game. There is a way of branching the new with the old, keeping the enfranchised people connected. And for people who are art lovers like me, it is just it's exciting because Alazor was a bomb card too when it came out. Like it was brutal. Mm-hmm. Like it got reprinted a few times, but for a while there is going for $100 a pop. Wow. And Dockside has not been reprinted since 2018. And there's literally been people have been yelling about that card, like to the point where people were making videos saying like, reprint it. Come on, either reprint it or ban it because it's too powerful. It was going for like 100, 120, so they, even though you didn't know, they knew. And so you're right now they're averaging your Alazorist borderless at $60 and your Dockside borderless is 100 on MTG Goldfish.
Wow. So that's even just changed since last Friday?
Yeah, that's the thing is these those are going to stay where they're going to stay because they're bomb cards. Like if you put them in, it's going to be SmackDown. So
well, and it was very cool what you were saying earlier too about there was a while where the art was kind of samey. It was almost over controlled, very monotone. You couldn't, at least from my point of view, I couldn't even tell which artist did which card. There was some of that. Yeah. Well, when I got the art direction for these pieces, there was a tagline in there that said, be sure to use your style. Like your style is the chef's kiss.
Yes.
That was in the art direction.
That's fantastic.
Your style is the chef's kiss. And I was like, that's amazing. And so you're going to get, Drew Tucker and his expression.
Yes.
Me and my more realism to, I saw Phil Folio had a card spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Folio's back and he's doing his very awesome cartoon style.
I mean, the amount of like the return of like, it's really exciting for me. I mean, you've seen Greg Hildebrandt, Keith Garlett's coming back. We got Richard Kane Ferguson, yourself. I mean, it is like they were sort of testing the waters with the first Double Masters, and this one they just came and they were just like boom, here's all these people.
Yeah. Pete Vendors, I saw Mark Poole still in it. I say still, which is funny. He got back in several years ago. Mm-hmm. Mark Steen.
Yes. Pete returning. I mean, and they gave Pete the crazy the card, the crazy cool Phyrexian Altar. It's just it is a really I do commend them on. They made the right choices. Like there is a lot of discussion about the cards costing more because of just the way the world is and the economy being the way that it is, and that's just sort of how things are. But
what about Dan Frazier coming back to do all that secret layer drop?
Yep. I mean, it was people. I mean, people get excited about it, and it shows that there is I think there could have been maybe a time where if you were an original artist like yourself, maybe you might be nervous that, you had your moment in the sun, but that, what if they're, paying attention, but it's clear that people are still paying attention. People are still interested.
And that's another case where, Dan had said that he wanted to update and show modern jewelry. Like, do you remember Vulcan Baga when he did the Moxes, you saw the hand.
Yes.
You could feel the hands and the other stuff. And they said, no, Dan, do them to match your original Moxes. Use that style. That's what they wanted. They wanted that connection to the original roots of the game.
Yes. It's a fascinating mix of like artistic growth and the nostalgia factor, which you can't underestimate the power of that combination.
Oh, sure. Sure. It's like when you hear a theme song to an old movie like Star Wars or Jurassic Park or something, mm-hmm. or you hear the theme song of the Batman. Those of us that grew up with it resonates with you. And you're there's an emotional connection to that.
Yeah, you get that pull in your chest where it almost feels like it's pulling you to the moment that you were when it connected with it. There's all sorts of amazing research that they've done with the human mind and the way it connects to art from the period of puberty to around 25. That mm-hmm. because of our neural pathways opening up for the first time in every sort of ways, that the art that we experience when we're in those period of times, that's why we have such a visceral reaction to it, because we're clearing our neural pathways with that art. And
I'm sure it's music too, because I know a lot of people get locked into a decade. I love 80s music.
Yeah. It's actually the book that I read is called This Is Your Brain on Music, and they talk specifically about that. It's a great book. It's the neuroscience behind music, and it's amazing. And you can still have that experience in life from what the book says. It happens occasionally. You will be able to do that, but it's just a rare moment. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, so you kind of think about, well, now whether you're going to realize it or not, somebody's going to have that neuro pathway experience to, the shepherd or to the dockside. Right. And, who knows what that will lead to 20 years from now.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting to me because even clothing styles, people get stuck in certain clothing styles.
Oh yeah.
You get stuck with certain movies you like. I've tried to show my kids the original Indiana Jones. They won't watch it. I'm like, come on, this is life-changing.
That's tough. Yeah, it's really difficult to translate that. It's one of the reasons why I'm very apprehensive about sharing, say, music with people, because when people say, "Oh, you have to listen to this song, you'll love it," and I feel like I'm being studied when I'm listening to it, which I'm like, that's taking me out of it. You want to have that moment where you organically discover it.
Or a book. You got to read this book. You'd love this book. You're like,
yeah, you feel like you're yes, exactly. Where it's like, am I going to be graded on this? And are you going to be mad at me if I don't love it? It puts pressure on it that wouldn't be there. It's a tough thing to translate, I think. But to be honest, just by watching some of the older interviews, you look very healthy, but most important, you look happy. Like you've got a joy.
Sure. For sure. And it was very strange. My wife and I were driving in the car last Thursday, and I got a text about, oh, look, this card was spoiled. And it's one of my cards. And I'm very excited, and I want to get home and read the reactions. And suddenly I get another text. There's another card of mine spoiled. And before I got home, all three of mine had hit the net. And I'm like, oh, I knew they were going to be spoiled, but I thought it was going to be across 2 weeks. I wasn't ready for it.
And I think that was very much on purpose, because they were dropping the bombs. Like this set is all about those reprints. Like there's chase cards after chase cards after chase cards. And it's great to see you and your contemporaries representative on there. It's just fantastic.
I even think that Allosaurus is going to be a foil card.
Is there anything that you are working on now that you can discuss or that you want to discuss that people should know about?
Not particularly. I just finished a children's book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have a friend who's an author for children's books. He's written several of them, and I've done art for 3 of them now.
Okay.
Let me see. Anne Manx. I'm supposed to be doing another Anne Manx book coming up. I think I've done 8 Anne Manx covers.
Yeah, a great casts that they have in those.
Those are all books on tape. And so what we do is we use the images of the actors or actresses on the cover of the book on tape. Yeah. But they're in a science fiction world, so I get to change the hair, change the costumes.
Yeah,
I kind of dress them up a little bit.
You did Ellen Muth from Dead Like Me. You did her up as I guess she plays a princess in one of the stories.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
Ed Asner was in one.
Yes. Oh my God. It's
Ed Asner. And he actually got approval on the piece. So we had to send him the art for him to sign off.
That's you painted. I mean, you're really the celebrity. I mean, like it's really cool. Like the pencil pencil paintings that you do, or not paintings, or the drawings that you do on your site. It's their likenesses are something else. I mean,
yeah, I do a lot of pencil work, mostly for myself. To be honest, I did a lot of early black and white pencil stuff in the 90s, which was doing very well. But with the cheapening of color printing, the black and white stuff just didn't really hold its share in the market. And so I started doing color prints. And now more recently, we've been doing the playmats. Because of the magic connection and the nostalgia, the playmats are just a really good, I mean, the fans love them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a guaranteed, like, you know, that's a home run, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's nice of you to say that you can see that I've got a sort of a happiness, because the return to magic has sort of filled what I was missing, you know, for the last 15, 20 years, that identity piece that I'd lost. And I would talk about it with nostalgia about the days before, the 90s. I was in the first 17 sets.
Yeah.
I did 150 cards. I did one of the first Planeswalkers, Gerard, as a supersized card. You know, I was invited to go to Europe several times. I was, you know, people take me to conventions and ask for my autograph. And that's a heady thing for people to want to meet you and want your autograph, to name your kid after one of your cards. Sarah.
That's super. It's astonishing. But what's great is that you are clearly touched by it. You're honoring the experience by showing.
I had taken it for granted, and then when it was all taken away, I realized what I'd lost. And that's why for the last 2 decades, it's just been sort of not humbling, I'd say. It's been just a little more of a learning what matters, you know, pursuing family and, you know, art projects that I want to pursue, and kind of doing the things that really are important, not just because of the glitz and the, you know, the autographs and all that. It's like, you know what? Magic is awesome. I'm happy to be a piece of it. That's really where I needed to be.
And do you really, I mean, when you say took it for granted, I mean, what were you doing that you would say that was what was happening?
Like rushing through art projects, not putting the time into a painting that I should.
Okay.
I think some of my later art in particular, some pieces really worked and some pieces just fell. And, you know, when certain cards come across my table to autograph, I kind of cringe a little bit. I'm like, oh, I wish I had done better on that. And I wish I'd tried more on that. You know, spending, you know, when you're like waiting until the last week to do the project, and you do it quick and you send it in and you're not thinking about it, you're not caring about it, that can't lead to success.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I follow you.
It's just a rush job. So now when Magic called on these 3 pieces, I literally just dropped everything. I spent 2 or 3 weeks on pencil sketches, 2 or 3 weeks on the painting part, and then a couple weeks just adding special effects, getting the photography right, making sure everything was perfect, and then sending it in proudly and not like, oh, what did I do? You know, it was like, I am proud to have these pieces out there.
And and you know what? It's clear that you came to play with these. Like you showed up and you were like, "Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game." Like,
yeah.
And
it was my chance. And if I bungled it, they'd never call back.
And you did. Well, you didn't. Congratulations. You certainly didn't. And I've only been playing since 2019. So I'm new to.
You are very new to it.
I'm very new, but I knew who you were. And it was a big deal for me to get you into, you know, an interview. You know, it's always a big deal getting, you know, the original artist, because there is such a history to what you guys have gone through. But, you know, I so like, again, you know, the knowledge of who you are, it's not, it isn't an accident that I knew who you were. And it is not an accident that you're back in the game. And I really do hope for everybody's sake, that I this might be a little Pollyanna of me, but my goal is to try to get everybody to return because I just like it. If anything, do it for me, people. I mean, just do it for me. But
and I'm not disillusioned that I got very lucky on some of my early cards, and I did work through my assignment quickly. I had done about 18 cards and I turned them in fairly early. And so the art director, Jesper, called me and said, I'm having a hard time assigning these. Can you take a few more?
Right. Yes.
And I said, yeah, tell you what, give me 10 more. So I went from 18 to 28 in the alpha set. And in that second batch, I mean, I'm sure there were heavy hitters. I don't remember specifically, but doing that many more cards means I got to do the Sarah Angels and the Demonic Tutors and the Force of Natures and the Hypnotic Specters and the ones that are iconic to this day.
Yeah, and they're especially being on the reserve list. Many of them. I mean, like it's unreal how much your cards go for on the market. Like,
well, and it wasn't. Again, I don't always just think it's the art. I'm not going to say it's the art. It was like Force of Nature was an 8/8 creature. I think he's 8/8.
Yes, yeah.
One of the biggest creatures in the first thing. Sarah was non-tapping flying. It's like, oh, those mechanics are the win.
Yeah.
Demonic Tutor lets you dig through your library and pull up cards. Okay, those mechanics will get you a win. So the mechanics really helped. And I think it's the synthesis of the art, mechanics really I got very fortunate on some of the cards that I was assigned.
It's true. But at the same time, it's sort of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, in a sense that you did get lucky, but you also ended up, if you look at the history of how you've evolved as an artist, you didn't give up and you continued to pursue your skill and hone your craft, even though you were not, there wasn't even you maybe you'd made peace with not coming back to the game. You had sort of, I'd imagine you had to come to a point where you're like, okay, I have to accept that this might be, that was then and this is now. And, you accept it. And then that happens. And then suddenly now you're back. It's like, it shows that there is a real artist behind the work that is there.
There is definitely a drive for, as we said earlier, for the next piece to be better. And the next piece better than that, and to always push. And it's not a push like an artificial. It's more like a need. It's like, oh, I made this mistake and I could have done that better. And so I've been watching videos on how to paint grass and how to paint leaves and how to paint bark and how to paint leather. And I seek it out in my own time. Like, how do I paint steel? It's like, okay, how would I paint steel? And you can watch YouTube videos, and you can go to tutorials, and you can buy books, and you can do, take photos and do samples. I've done a number of little paint studies for these paintings, where I test my colors and I test my brush strokes. And it's a drive. It's not because somebody's telling me to do it. It's like I'm driven to do it.
Right. Yeah, you are not in control of this urge to do it. And maybe you never were. I don't think anybody who is going to excel in any sort of creative path, or really in general, you have to have that obsessiveness. There has to be that like, maybe it's not the healthy thing, but it's necessary.
Yeah. Like a singer trying to get the next song to be better.
Exactly. And, I'll tell you this much, if, like, I would say these are automatically greatest hits. I mean, it really is. It was fantastic to see. I was like, whoa, like, there is.
Well, I hope so. When I'm going to go to 2 different comic stores that are nearby on the pre-release days when they are actually hitting the stores. And I'm going to be out there with everybody else trying to get my cards and opening a few packs and trading away rares for my own cards back if I can find them. And I'm going to be back out there doing that. And I can't tell you how exciting that sounds.
That's fantastic. That really is. It's just, I'm very happy for you. It's deserved. It's great to witness, and I predict that this is the beginning of a new age, as Lou Reed would say.
I hope so. I want to just keep doing magic. Even just a couple cards a year would keep me happy.
I just don't see how that couldn't be a thing. Well, let's just say this. I do not think that this is the swan song.
So maybe as a secret lair, we could do that if I was assigned it then, where you have like the original Banalish and the new Banalish.
That is absolutely something that I would personally be interested in. I know that, I mean, look, people would, that would be something that would be absolutely worth, putting in. And I think that, and I really do, and I seriously mean this, I encourage you to, if you have the ability to do it, that it's not going to affect, whatever, your regular life. I think that the reimagining thing that you did is just, it's a great idea. I think that it would sort of like, the fire's burning now, so you can just fan the flames and keep it, keep it in motion. I mean,
well, and I'm hoping that these are going to be in print they're going to be in circulation for at least the next year, or I think you can play with 2 years, right?
Well, these are going to be, well, here's the thing. These are not just that, but these are commander staples. Like, these are not going anywhere. They're essential for any sort of competitive commander play.
So these are going to be around for a while, and I'll be seeing them and enjoying them for the next couple of months to years at conventions, getting, new autographs and such. And I'm going to capitalize on that energy to make sure I just keep it going and continue starting to do shows and, prints. We're already talking about doing a set of prints for the new Dockside.
Oh yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, your artist proofs, when those come in, people are going to be banging down the door to get to those.
And I heard we only get 50 of each.
Yeah. You only get 50 of each, but it's like, but that's the thing is like, I know from, just working with I have people who support the channel and allow me to show off their work on their behalf. And the amount of like people who people are going to be kicking the door in to get get their hands on those for sure.
Yeah. I've already got some questions about what will they be selling for, which
And I would say
we've entertained a few offers on the originals, although currently the originals are NFS. They're not for sale yet. Might not ever be. I'm not real fond of selling my originals.
Why is that?
Because to me, the money is temporary.
Okay.
And then once the money's spent, then I don't have the money or the original. And I'm not in a situation where I need the money.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, if I had the money or if I had the paintings mean so much to me right now, that I think I would feel too much loss letting them go.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that.
So at least for now, they're NFS. That may change over time. Or if I do additional cards, then I might sell these earlier ones. I realize they're at their greatest value when they're released, or so I've been told. Although I've never had a painting go down in value.
I don't think that they would have. I don't think selling them for they're going to sell for a good amount. I think regardless of when they are sold. I think, but I understand that and I respect that. My question to you is this: like, obviously you have family and the legacy of these paintings are going to be left, to your loved ones. But has the idea ever crossed your mind to maybe donate some to an art gallery or some sort of way that they can be viewed by the public?
Yeah, maybe as long as they still remain mine and I could pick them up later.
Oh yeah, no,
they're still obviously. Family. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
I'd be open to that. And I've told my wife if anything happens to me, she's clear to sell them.
See, well, that's great, but
I shouldn't say that because now there's going to be a target on my head.
Oh yeah, well, you know what? If anybody does that, I'd be like, they're going to be a target on their head. I would. No.
But, yeah, I'm just at least for the here and now, I'm holding on to them because they're personal to me. I do see a time when I might be able to let some of them go, but obviously these just came out. There's a lot of excitement, and I still have things to learn from these paintings. So I'm not feeling the need to get rid of them.
No, and that makes sense. And it is very clear that this is such a significant moment for you in, when you're looking back on your life, this is a moment.
Right. Yeah.
And I can respect that. I can respect that you are clearly, you're emotionally attached to it, and you should be. This is emotional. It's a happy ending, which, life does not offer them too often. So when they happen, you got to celebrate it.
Yeah. And some of my pieces I did let go early on, for mere hundreds or even low thousands. And now I'm hearing they're selling for tens of thousands.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It is.
And I'm like, well, if I had just hung on to them for 3 more years or 4 more years, I would have done a lot better. And so there's some of that too. There's the resentment of, that I let them go before it was time.
Right.
Before I was ready and before the market was ready.
But at the same time too, again, with the early stuff, it really is how could you have known? You couldn't have known. I mean, you probably sold them for what you thought was a reasonable amount when you sold them, right? I mean,
and at the time, I think it was reasonable, but who would have known? I hear pieces selling for tens of thousands of dollars now.
Easy. And that would be the case with the I would not be surprised if that was the case with your new paintings. Like those are going to go easy. So it's like that. I think at least you have the luxury of knowing that your stuff is pretty much going to be like a success as far as that goes. So I do respect you wanting to take your time with it, because they are just, it's a big moment, and you kind of want to document, have your photos taken with them, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
hang them on my wall for a while before they go on somebody else's, because I couldn't even hang these on my wall. I have friends over, I have family over, people that can't see them. These have had to been hidden for the last year.
Oh, that's tough. And
they're so
big,
finally
too.
I can actually put them out in my in my space, and my friends can come over and actually now see the paintings.
Oh, that's rough, because especially with the fact that they're so big, you kind of were having to, like, the elephant in the room, literally, kind of hidden. Yep. Yeah, that's tough, because I didn't think about that. The reality of keeping it blanketed and why you have to guard it with your life.
Hidden in a closet somewhere, or
I know that sucks. That really does suck.
The wall so nobody can tell what the heck it is.
Oh, do you feel bad too? You're like, I'm sorry, this isn't personal. I love you, and like, I'm not like this. This is for your own good. Like you kind of feel like like pulling of flowers in the attic on them, maybe, or something.
Well, and because we were under NDA, I couldn't even mention that I was working on Magic.
You see, now that was surprising to me, because I know that other artists I've interviewed have said that they are allowed to mention that they are in a upcoming release.
So I think that's about what I could have said. I couldn't have said, I could say I was working for Magic, and I could say that that was it. I couldn't say what set. I couldn't say what timeline.
Yes. Yeah.
As people could start inferring what set.
Well,
in fact, it was mentioned to one of my daughter's friends that I might need a model. And she is of Asian descent.
Mm-hmm.
She immediately assumed it was for Kamigawa set.
Oh, okay.
Kamigawa came out, I think, earlier this year.
It did, yes.
And so from me asking her to be a model, she inferred I was in this set, and when's it going to come out? And there was a lot of other follow-on assumptions that I couldn't correct.
Right.
I can't, no, that's not the set. Because, it could have been.
Confirm or deny it.
I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah.
And we realized, I just can't say anything to anyone, because the Magic community is hyper intelligent.
Yeah. People talk. People
talk, and they're smart. And if you say something like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be out next summer, I'm going to set next summer, they're going to know, oh, it must be this, because I'm the only one with the launch date. Or you told me in July, and so I know it's this long of a cycle. They figure it out. I hear that.
True. But there was a period in time where I know that a lot of people, when there was a big shift that happened, I believe in the early 2000s, that there were some unceremoniously, the divorces were, it was a bitter divorce.
It was a bitter divorce. That's a great way to put it. And that kind of happened to me.
Yeah.
Not in a bitter way, but it was clear that my art was not matching the new modern look.
Yeah. And
I had a painful conversation, but I didn't make it a crusade to go out and bash Wizards for it.
Right.
Like, you know what? Instead of, I can feel the anger in the moment, or I can remember the 10 years preceding, all through the 90s, when I was a star. And I'm like, you know what? I would rather remember the good stuff, because I don't have enough room in my life for anger. And so that's what I did, is I just kind of put myself in a Zen place and say those days were great and they're behind me. and now I'm going to move on to other things. But then, like I said, about 10 years ago, I started going to conventions again and seeing other artists, and this dream started to form. It's like, you know what? I think I could come back.
I was honestly flabbergasted, and I continue to be flabbergasted when I see that people are not coming back. And I've actually, in private, I have beseeched and pleaded some artists to say, like, look, I'm like, just try. I know that you don't want to, but like,
yep.
People are like, the amount of just like the Vesuvius of love that would happen. I'm gunning for them. There's some people I'm slowly chipping away at, and I'll wear them down for.
You'll get them back in.
Nice. Look, yeah, I'm tenacious, and all I'm saying is Anson Maddox is going to happen. I'm making that I'm making that my thing, because I want to see it that real bad. And Julie Bear, I'd love to see everybody.
Yeah.
It's just I want to. I really do think that there's an honoring of like this the full circle aspect. There's just
interesting thing is not everybody's going to want to come back, because as you said, there was a bad divorce.
Yeah, I know.
Wizards doesn't want some people back, and some people don't want to go back to Wizards.
But from what I can tell, from what I understand, the Wizards where the situations were like vitriolic, the people who are there then are not there now. That there's a completely different set of people who are in control, and that there is much more of an understanding of the creative side versus what happened in the early 2000s, where it was like a real corporate push, and things were done. I mean, it was a business decision that came off like it was a cruel, but it was business. And the
way I think about it is, okay, so I'm an art director in my day job.
Okay, I was wondering about that. I was wondering what you meant by day job.
I have a day gig, that pays for everything. So the freelance art can be just beer money, can be extra. So I can take the projects I want. Mm-hmm. But at my day job, we outsource art and we work with other artists, and nothing makes me happier than when you can assign it a project and it comes back right. Or if you need changes, the artist jumps on the changes. Nothing makes me happier. And so working with Wizards now, I want to be the artist side and be responsive, be positive. Don't be a prima donna. Don't be like, well, this is the art I'm painting, and I'm not going to make these changes. No, you'll never get called back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The art director needs to get a product out, and it needs to be on time, and it needs to be awesome. And whatever I can do to make their day better and easier, that just helps me. It helps them. It's a win-win.
Yeah, it would be foolish not to strike the iron while it's hot like this. And I represent a couple of young artists in the game. Like, I'm no big shot. I've only got, a couple, but they're new and they're coming out, and I go with that ethos. I'm like, listen, if you just have a good attitude and your talent is there, you'll do fine. They'll ask you back.
They'll ask you back. And if you decide, well, I don't want to do this change, or this is the way it is, or you kind of push back, you might win that battle, but you'll lose the war.
Yeah. And, and there are some really amazing art directors who work there, where you have to trust that they have this job for a reason, and that they're making a decision that will be best for, everybody involved. And I've only gotten a chance to interview a couple of art directors for Wizards, because I have to go through a process where I have to get the questions approved. But the ones that I have done, it's been fantastic. And I'd love to talk to, all of them, but I'm on your guys' side, and I really am happy for you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and to help celebrate your return to the game.
Well, and thank you. And thank you for your patience on letting me kind of navigate my own comfort and NDA and my
Absolutely.
side. Because I know you wanted to talk several months ago, and I didn't feel like I could be nearly as open. And that's why I wanted to wait for the new pieces to be out, so that then we had something current that we could talk about, as well as the legacy.
Absolutely. Look, patience is a virtue, and this is what I wanted. So I think that having to wait a little while. Okay, I'll wait a little while. I mean, it's worth it.
Regrettably, I wish I knew these were going to come out on day one, or else we would have talked 2 weeks ago.
That's tough, but that's the thing, and that's one of the things that I'm able to try. Like, it's tougher with artists that I'm interviewing for the first time because I can show them my NDA, but there needs to be that connection, that trust. And while I can do that with, say, like planning out with my people that I'm representing and saying like, okay, we're going to have this thing in the chamber, locked and loaded. It may not be right on point, but it'll still be out by the time it needs to be out.
Right. And I'm still going to be releasing my sketches, and there's going to be other things. I mean, they're spoiling all week, actually for the rest of the month, right?
Yeah, it's still happening. And there's not going to be difficult for me to write the intro, outro to this interview. It's going to be easy peasy. I really am so excited for you. And I do believe that this is the next phase. I
hope it's the beginning of a several year, multi-year journey.
I would be fucking shocked if it wasn't. I don't think that would be, that's just not how it works. Especially with your can-do attitude. I mean, like, you are really like, you are the put me in the game, coach, put me in the game. People, you like that. You want that,
Yeah. I mean, the art, can't say it enough. The art director has a product they need to get out. They're under strictures from legal, from their writing team, from the Lord team. They have things they need to comply to.
They have bosses to answer to.
They have bosses. They have deadlines, budgets. And if I can help them come under budget and on time and make sure that the art fits their lore and legal is happy and everybody's happy, it's just smooth. It's just smooth for everyone. And then they remember that. And maybe next year or the year after, when they have another assignment, they're like, hey, let's give Doug a ring because he's kind of he can deliver.
I promise you, this was not a mistake that they gave you the cards they gave you. This is a vote of confidence. I can promise you that, because just knowing, when I saw that, I was like, oh snap. Wow. They gave you like bombs, and it's like I said, people are talking about it. So you should feel confident that this is beginning. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love hearing, that there's some hope and that maybe I'll be in this for a while.
I'm on your guys' side, and I really am happy for you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and to help celebrate your return to the game.
Well, and thank you. And thank you for your patience on letting me kind of navigate my own comfort and NDA and my side. Because I know you wanted to talk several months ago, and I didn't feel like I could be nearly as open. And that's why I wanted to wait for the new pieces to be out, so that then we had something current that we could talk about, as well as the legacy.
Absolutely. Look, patience is a virtue, and this is what I wanted. So I think that the having to wait a little while. Okay, I'll wait a little while. I mean, it's worth it.
Regrettably, I wish I knew these were going to come out on day one, or else we would have talked 2 weeks ago.
That's tough, but that's the thing, and that's one of the things that I'm able to try. Like, it's tougher with artists that I'm interviewing for the first time because I can show them my NDA, but there needs to be that connection, that trust. And while I can do that with, say, like planning out with my people that I'm representing and saying like, okay, we're going to have this thing in the chamber, locked and loaded. It may not be right on point, but it'll still be out by the time it needs to be out.
Right. And I'm still going to be releasing my sketches, and there's going to be other things. I mean, they're spoiling all week, actually for the rest of the month, right?
Yeah, it's still happening. And there's not going to be difficult for me to write the intro, outro to this interview. It's going to be easy peasy. I really am so excited for you. And I do believe that this is the next phase. I
hope it's the beginning of a several year, multi-year journey.
I would be fucking shocked if it wasn't. I don't think that would be, that's just not how it works. Especially with your can-do attitude. I mean, like, you are really like, you are the put me in the game, coach, put me in the game. People, you like that. You want that,
Yeah. I mean, the art, can't say it enough. The art director has a product they need to get out. They're under strictures from legal, from their writing team, from the Lord team. They have things they need to comply to.
They have bosses to answer to.
They have bosses. They have deadlines, budgets. And if I can help them come under budget and on time and make sure that the art fits their lore and legal is happy and everybody's happy, it's just smooth. It's just smooth for everyone. And then they remember that. And maybe next year or the year after, when they have another assignment, they're like, hey, let's give Doug a ring because he's kind of he can deliver.
I promise you, this was not a mistake that they gave you the cards they gave you. This is a vote of confidence. I can promise you that, because just knowing, when I saw that, I was like, oh snap. Wow. They gave you
nice.
Like bombs, and it's like I said, people are talking about it, so you should feel confident.
Nice.
That this is beginning. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
Cool. Thank you very much. I love hearing that there's some hope and that maybe I'll be in this for a while.
I really would be fucking shocked if it would be. I'm going to call it. You're good. You're good for. I think you're back in. I think you're fine. I think this is, again, the work you delivered is fantastic. It is I let out the gay gasp when I saw it. I was like, yeah, it was just like,
great phrase.
And so I mean, I'm going to call it, and I will say this officially. I'd say I believe that this is not the last that we are seeing of Doug.
Well, maybe we can count on talking again in about a year.
I would love that, very much so.
Sounds good. All right. Is there anything you need from me?
If you wanted to, and this is totally up to you, if you wanted to send me the images of the model that you showed off today, if you wanted to, that's fine. And I can actually put them into the interview itself, or if that's something you want to hold off on, whatever you want to. But
so the only reason I don't want to is because he's not aware the card is out yet.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And we're going to give it to him. If I can get the card on July 8th, we're going to frame it with a print and give it to him the week thereafter. Okay. I don't want the art of him holding it cycling around. Further, I haven't asked him if I'm allowed to cycle that picture around. I probably shouldn't have shown it to you, actually.
Oh, well,
maybe I'd better ask him.
I think that you own the rights to any photographs you take. I believe that legally you haven't violated anything. I mean, he agreed to model, and there was he was aware that you were taking his picture. And
it'll be fine. I want to make sure that I have his permission.
Absolutely. Look, and that is if you want to, and I can make that. I can make that go away, and it would not interrupt the flow of the interview. Like my editor is he's crackerjack. Like I don't know how he does it, but
he probably cuts between you and me. He probably cuts so that there isn't this jump of somebody moving around.
No, dude, trust me, that every single one of them has been like, there's work done. Like everything that I do, there's no downtime. Like when we're searching for stuff online, when we pull off on the side, I literally will show you the final cut before we release it. I don't want any ill will.
Yeah, good.
So you don't have anything to worry about for me. Like you can.
Yeah. Why don't you not show the picture of the model? Only because I don't have his permission, and I want to respect him. And I might have legal right, but I want to have.
You care, yeah.
Yeah,
I get it. Absolutely. And you
just
said
don't show that part. That's the only, and that's just not even a Wizards thing. That's just keep my model happy.
And you said July. When was the date that he would be aware?
Well, I'm going to try to get the cards on release day, which my understanding is it's the 8th of July.
Okay.
So we would get it framed the next day or two and then present it to him.
Okay. And you really think that he's not aware? I mean, I wonder how it's going to keep.
I don't know. I know he got out of Magic a few years ago, and so he may not be following it.
Oh, dude. I mean,
for all I know, he's all over the internet and he's already seen it.
Yeah, I would be surprised, because was he aware of what this was, or was he?
Yes, he was aware because he used to be a Magic player. And that's when this mutual friend of ours said, what can I give him for his birthday? And I'm like, hey, how about him be in a... She actually wanted me to just maybe sign some cards for him for birthday.
This is, I mean, nominate her for sainthood. I I mean,
she wanted me to sign a dozen or so cards and said, hey, what are some of the best cards? And by the way, I don't have a lot. Can I get some from you? She wanted me to work with him on getting him a birthday present. And that's why I was like, look, I can do one better.
Oh my,
let's put him in a card.
You could do one better, you say? That, I think you're underselling that. I mean, like the coolness factor. I mean, look, I have been unprompted. I have been painted by 2 magic artists, unprompted, not anything official, but they just asked me to do stuff. And that alone was like shit my pants awesome. I can't even begin to imagine that the thrill of saying like, you my friend got together with one of the original OGs and put me on a card, on a bomb mythic that is like a staple. Like that, you gotta have.
And I was going to use her as a model for the Allosaurus Shepherd, but they specified that was a male figure.
Yeah.
I'm not Allosaurus. I'm sorry, not Allosaurus Shepherd. For the Seeker of the Way.
Oh, gotcha. Well, you know what I mean.
Seeker of the Way, and they said no, that one's got to be male, and so. That's when I found the model that I used.
I mean, it's, but there's only so much you can do. I mean, but it really actually is amazing that you even are, considering that. That is truly an incredible gift you give by doing that. Like
So I'm hoping he doesn't see it. I'm hoping he doesn't come across it. And that's why I don't want a friend of his to see the photo of him by the painting.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Send it to him and say, oh, dude, look, this looks just like you.
I feel like
we can just keep it quiet. Then I can reveal to him on the 10th or 11th of July and get to see the expression firsthand.
I don't want to be a pessimist, but I want to say that cat is out of the bag. I would be, if I saw something like that and I was like, that looks like a friend of mine, I'd be like, okay. I mean, because if he knows that you were doing it for magic, I would be watching new release. If I would be looking for your name like a psychopath, like I'd be like,
yeah, you'd be like, oh my God, have you seen this thing?
Douglas Shuler, a new release. Like, when's it coming out? And I mean, like, and I knew about it right away. And I'm not painted, and I was that excited. I feel like I would be shocked if he doesn't know. Somebody needs to film it happening, because that is going to be, that could go viral. I mean, like, my head would explode. I just would.
Well, I'm hoping. So let's not show that piece.
Well, we will not show that piece. And but if you do find out ahead of time that he did find out, and that
then it's fine. In fact, then I can send you the photo, and you can have the actual photo up there.
Because it is true. I mean, it is really cool to see. I mean, like, not gonna lie, but I will absolutely respect your wishes.
Sure. If he has seen it, I'll email you I'll Facebook the photo to you. Do we have your email?
Well,
yeah, we have your email.
Whatever works for you, Ed, and I appreciate that. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know I kept you longer than.
And you can use the pieces of art that I put on my website and Mark's website.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I assumed that those were safe for sharing.
I think they're only about 700 pixels tall, but that's probably good enough resolution.
It's fine, because if they're not that big, I blow them up a little bit, and then they tend to fit on the screen for YouTube. Like, as long as like get them around 1280 by 720 size, they don't really lose anything. So it's will be good. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, this has been enjoyable.
Well, you have a good evening, and I will hopefully speak to you soon.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll talk again.
Okay.
All right. Take care, Alper.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it. And if you ask me, Doug is back, and he isn't going anywhere. In fact, I would bet my bottom dollar on it. I would bet my top dollar on it. I would even bet my versatile dollar, which, if you ask me, is the best position any dollar can assume. Don't work hard for money, but make that money work hard for you. That's sound advice, right, cameraman?
Not even close.
Oh, cameraman, you're nothing if consistently devastating. But you know what is sound advice? Joining our Patreon. You can get even more Doug footage, artist-proof deals, and of course, a shout-out. And this week's shout-out goes to Travis M. Thank you for your support and being a cherry on top. So, bottoms up to you, and I think it's time to reinstall Grindr. Happy Pride, everyone! Bye-bye!